Welcome to the Non-Breaking Space Show from Austin, Texas. I'm the Internet's Christopher Schmidt. And on today's show, we welcome Dan Denney. Since 2008, Dan Denney has worked closely with designers and writing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. He also founded the Front-End Design Conference in St. Petersburg, Florida. After working as a front-end developer at Code School, Dan is currently unemployed so as to focus on building up his skills as a front-end engineer and find the right team. Before we get started, some things I'd like you to know. Make plans for CSS DevConf 2017 this October 9th to 11th. It's not just about CSS. We cover topics like web components, React, working with design systems, Webpack, and much, much more. So grab your tickets now and learn from Chris Coyier, Wes Boss, Mina Markham, Harry Roberts, Estelle Weil, and many more in New Orleans. Tickets are on sale now at cssdevconf.com. The UX Design Newsletter is a weekly list of articles, tutorials, and inspiration handpicked by yours truly. Sign up at uxdesignnewsletter.com and have the best links of the week sent to your email. Set it and forget it with the Non-Breaking Space Show newsletter. So whenever a new show is ready, it gets sent right to your inbox. Sign up now at newsletter.nonbreakingspace.tv. Find show notes and links discussed in today's episode with Dan at nonbreakingspace.tv. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Teleject, Teleject. And as always, thank you for telling others about Non-Breaking Space. Now, on with the show. Cool. I appreciate you being on the show, Dan. I've known about you for a long time, and I think we only met like a couple times in general. So I think the last time I talked to you was at CSS DevConf and on the boat of or ship actually, the Queen Mary. I think that's last time. So I CSS DevConf there. So yeah. But I do want to talk to you about how you get started in the industry, and then talk about what you're doing now and everything like that. So how'd you get into the web?
That's a fun one. So getting into the web was, I was going to school for A+ and Net+, so like network, like PC repair and networking, trying to find my career. But my teacher was really into running his own little website. And so I found HTML in that, and that was like 2001. Yeah. And so then I was just a hobbyist for a long time, like building atrocious like Flash photo slideshows of my daughter and stuff like that. And then 2008, I applied for a gig as a SEO person, and they actually brought me on as a web designer instead.
Oh, wow. Okay. So why were you thinking about becoming like a Net+ or a person to begin with, like a tech, I guess, that server backend or like server repair, is that it?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like general PC and repair. And so I was kind of thinking I would go more towards like a network administrator in some business, something along those lines. It was not really a web path at that time.
Right. So, but what made you think about doing that instead of something else?
Oh, I just always loved computers. I was a computer geek from, when I was a kid, and it's just like fighting. I think it was like fighting a Windows ME installation because I was young, broke, and trying to play video games, and like fighting like an ME just kind of was like, I fight this enough on my own time. Maybe I should, go get paid for this instead of like doing poker, which is what I was doing at the time. So
you're like 2001 is when you started like HTML and Flash site. So when did you decide, or how did you become like, I guess, your professional first gig, I guess, with web?
Well, when that kind of job offer gave me the confidence, because I was trying to get like a second job to pay for a wedding. Okay. And that they saw like some kind of potential in the things that I created just to get the job. Wow. Okay. Kind of like it gave me enough confidence. And then I went to a conference within a year of taking that job. And then I was in love with the industry at that point. I went to like Future Web Design 2009 and or 2008. I'm sorry. It was November 2008. 2008. Yeah.
It seems like yesterday.
I know.
Like, it's almost 10 years. Like, yeah. I never went to a Future Web Design conference. So what about it like made you like fall in love with the industry?
The people. So I had been listening to podcasts and reading like Smashing Mag and CSS Tricks, all those things. And then all of a sudden you're there and the people are up there just like sharing every bit of information they have. And then they get off the stage and they're right there like talking to people. And so like all these people I've been learning from over like the course of a year, they were totally willing to just come up and talk and like, like answer questions. And then I met people in the same way. I'm pretty shy, but even at that event on my own, I met people and it was just like, I love this. This is fantastic.
I feel the same way because like one of my first conferences was in San Francisco, and I flew out there, and I just couldn't believe that there was enough momentum, because it's like I started web stuff, was joking around, and then like when I went to a conference, I was like, there's other people having the same problems, and I met people who were I've learned from before, like, and I can talk to them. It was awesome. Yeah, I totally get that.
It's such a great community. And then like, just like you, I thought, wow, I want to be a part of this too. And so like, I imagine that's what kind of got you going for creating them too.
Oh yeah, for like yeah. So like talk about like creating conferences, like so like you created the front end conference, the, the full
Oh
conference.
yeah.
Is that the correct title? It's like so like
Yeah, I think it's the longest SEO name ever, like frontenddesignconference.com.
it says what it does.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yeah, I love like titling things is hard on the internet or for the internet, for programming stuff, but also titling naming things is just tough in general. It's like we used to do a conference called In Control, and I thought it was a great title. However, SEO just sucks because like In Control, we put that in Google, it's just like so many people are in control. Like I'm in control today. Like, it's like no, that's not really what we meant. But yeah. So ever since then, like I like naming things, but I have to make sure that bringing it in. It's like what does it mean and what does it say? But yeah. So like so what made you? What was that the like going to the Future Design conference that kind of inspired you to create your own conference?
Yeah. So I came back and I was excited and I'm pumped up and I'm like, I want one of these. And then there I am in Florida. And at the time there was nothing,
Right.
nothing at all. And so we had just gotten married. And so we had nothing to do but, live happily ever after. So it was like, what can we do now? And so I was like, well, I really like this and we could try doing one of these. And we just gave it a shot. So it worked out pretty well.
So is your wife into web design as well, or
No, she's into event planning.
oh,
So
nice. Okay.
yeah, so that was like it was just the perfect combo of like me having a passion and for the industry and her having just gotten like her start in event planning, and that actually came from the wedding stuff too. So
Oh, nice. Great. That's awesome. Yeah, that makes it. That's like dynamic too, because we've done so many conferences. I feel like just trial by learning, like learning by error all the time. Like I like, am I doing this right? I am. So that's awesome. Yeah. So how was your first like other conference? Like, what would you recommend for people who want to start a conference? Like, what bits of advice would you give them?
oh, I
Besides,
think
don't do it.
right, yeah, yeah. That's it was easier back then. Let's just say
Yeah.
that. But the one thing that I think is number one, you have to create something that you want to go to. I think that's probably the most important thing. And then from that, what I found worked for us was just be as real and as personal as you can. Because quite literally, we created something I wanted to go to. I invited the people that I was learning from,
Mhm.
and then we just tried to be as personable with the people and tried to keep that spirit of talking to everybody and just being there and being
Yeah.
present with all the people. That seemed to work out really well for all of our time.
Right. Yeah, I think that's so true. Like you just want to like you're just going on events. These are the people you want to see. Present and talk to. That after they go off the stage, those are the people you want to have a have a adult beverage or non-adult beverage.
Yes.
So and talk to you. So yeah, I think I totally agree with that. Because and designing a conference that you want to go to, I think that's where I started out. Was like I wanted to like it was like have a bucket list type of thing. Like I want to do this, and then it's sort of like these are the people. If I were starting out, or if I have questions, I still have questions. I would like to talk to them about I'll get these people in a room and see what they say and what they do. So that's great advice. So that's awesome. Yeah, and also just be. I think the only time that we haven't done that is with the CSS comp, where we do the double blind voting and we just have no idea. Like the majority of people are coming, I don't know who's coming. Like
Yeah.
they voted on, I have no idea. So and that's kind of scary. But it's always been great for years. So awesome. So from doing conferences, and you recently you recently left the job. Is that right?
Yeah. I was a front-end developer for Code School for pretty much like 5 years. Like technically, the last few months I was a software engineer for Pluralsight, but
Okay.
but up until that point, I was a front-end developer for Code School.
Cool. And because Code School got bought by Pluralsight. Right?
Yep. Yeah, about 2.5, I think, years ago, maybe 3 years now, or something like that.
Well, yeah. And so so like Pluralsight from everyone I talk to, there's great company, Code School, great company as well. So seemed like a good fit. So and the reason why I bring that up, you left there, is just because you stated that you just wanted to you didn't have a job you're going to next. You just wanted to actually take time off and actually learn, right? And so what was what's the rationale behind not having a job to go to? Why do that? Why not? Because the rationale, the lizard brain is oh my god, you don't have a job lined up. What's going on?
Yeah, it and people have a hard time believing you. Yeah. When you say no, for real, I didn't just get hired by somebody else and I'm just trying to leave quietly. No, I really didn't have a job. I'm just trying to go and figure that out. And a lot of it was just I'm a very passion driven person. I have to. It's a personality flaw, but I kind of have to really be excited about what I'm doing, what I'm working on, what I'm doing, those kind of things. And some of that had just, faded for me a bit over the type of work that I was doing at the time. And some of the people that I really, really enjoyed working with over the years had gone. And it was just a different thing. And so I was I'm not as excited about this. And I don't know if that's the job or if it's the role or what it is. Mm-hmm. So... And I'm getting older. And so I was I really want to, I don't think that this is the thing that I'm going to want to do for the next 10, 15 years or something like that. So I was maybe it's just time to make a clean break and then figure out what it is that I do want to do for the next 10, 15 years.
And so that's, it's a pretty great thing to say. Because I know what's going to make me happy, and this is not really making me happy going forward. I think that's a pretty smart move. It's really it shows a lot of emotional intelligence. So what have you been doing to figure out what have you found out what you don't want to do? Even more so, is there other things that you don't want to do besides the web developer position that you had there?
There's been a shift in the industry, and I was kind of I paid attention a lot. We were working at Code School and at Pluralsight. Our whole product is things that are going technologically in the industry, and so we I observed this stuff as we were going along, and the kind of the shift has been more towards what I consider now OG front end, which is where you took designs and turned them into HTML, CSS, and then some JavaScript or something like that. And that has kind of been replaced with this new front end, which is more like a front end engineering role. So you're now pushing more full stack. You're spending more time in data schemas and connections and various things. I'm not doing a great job of explaining that right there, but just kind of a shift in where your focus lies. And so in my time off, I was kind of what am I still really excited about the front end stuff? And it is really still that visual component. I love working with designers and then bringing things to life on the web and delivering things that directly impact customers hands, them interacting with something. I don't get as excited about figuring out gigantic data schemas. It's fun. It's cool for small little things on my own, but it's just a different thing. So I've been just kind of doing some small projects on my time to see like what parts am I fired up about throughout the day and what parts am I not, and doing some training, some courses. I'm like, what parts of this am I like interested in and excited about, and what part am I not? And like just kind of going through that for like 3 weeks now.
So what have you been learning the last 3 weeks? What projects have you taken on?
So React, a good amount of that. Preact, which is like a very like performant small version of React, but basically the same thing.
Yeah, like a small footprint, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I just sat through like a 3 day React course, and Preact was like the last hour of that, and I'm not sure I want your opinion on it, but I was really excited about Preact. Like I was just like, yes, I want that. Like I want more of that.
And yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, cool. I'm not sure. So React, Preact,
Node. So that was another thing, and that was most of these have been like Wes Boss courses. Like I did finished up his React one, then I did a Preact one on Egghead, and then the Wes Boss like Learn Node I just finished this week. And that one was fantastic because like as a front end developer, I worked around a lot of these things, like just basic concepts of like MVC and data transfers, request response stuff. I worked around it without always understanding what was going on. And that course, like I feel like I have a much better understanding now of like data flow through an app. It's been really, really cool.
And so it sounds like you're doing a lot of like tackling the JavaScript issues.
Yes.
Right. And so it sounds like you have React, you have Preact, Node. It's like when you talk about OG front end, the generation one. To say that where you or the webmaster type of approach, where like you're in charge of everything, or you can be in charge of everything and affect things in terms of like talking to designers, you code things up. That's what it sounds like. JavaScript has eaten all the things, right? And so it's the server and like that. So, what's your feeling about like this JavaScript world that we live in now?
So it's different for sure, but I think like if you think back to like maybe 2012ish or so, like 2012, 2013. It wasn't that far off in that you kind of chose as a front end developer like whether or not to learn a CMS or a back end language as well. So the difference is like you were kind of like a front end developer that could work in WordPress, and you might learn a little bit of WordPress, just the stuff to like make sure you can edit views. Same thing with like Rails. You would learn enough to work in the view layer, but like nothing would you would never touch that backend layer. Like you wouldn't be off in like methods or controllers or anything like that.
Right.
And the difference I think now is the aggressiveness or the demand for you to do those other things. Because there was this clear handoff back then. It was like, oh, I'm a front end person. I'm going to get up to this point and then I'm going to just make some dummy data. And then like at some point you're going to switch this out and it's going to like output things. And now it's not like that very much at all. Like it's when you go look for a front end job, if you just type front end into a job search, like you're supposed to be going way further into that stack than you used to. And that's just the nature of the beast, is the way that data flow has changed for apps, again, from like JavaScript kind of eating up the world.
Right. Yeah. I just feel like, I don't know, I think I kind of relate it to, I just did a little research on the progressive web apps for a book I'm working on, and also just from my general knowledge. And it just feels like just a little thing that, progressive web apps kind of comes from Google a little bit, because it sounds like they're the one coining the phrase, or the one like beating the drum about it. And one of the things I was like, well, what is progressive web apps? What is the kind of cheat sheet, like, or like, what bullet point list is like, or like checklist, like. What can I go and say, this is a progressive web app? Because I can go to so many tutorials from our industry about like, I could tell the browser that it's offline and deliver the page. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I can have a bookmark app icon on my mobile device. I'm like, oh, I've been able to do that for a while now. I don't understand what they're. But what really got me was the kind of standard behavior to make websites applications, right? Which is like, anyone who's been doing this for a while is like, that's not a revelation for us. But no, what's really, in terms of context of what we're asking for, is like Google is saying, yeah, we're going to JavaScript your UI now, and that's the de facto. Not that we haven't been able to do that before with Ajax calls, and like MailChimp is the one where like they've been doing these apps, making sure you don't have to actually load the entire page and do all that stuff. Like now it's kind of like, yeah, we got it now with React, everything, like we kind of got a handle on that. And so snuggled in this checklist of what makes a progressive web app is like, yeah, JavaScript is going to be running the UI and the page changes, they're changing the DOM, the shadow DOM, like so. And so that was like kind of like a recent light bulb over my head. It's like, oh, okay, so we're not dictating just the technology side of things anymore. We're actually dictating the UX in terms of what a progressive web app is.
Yeah, and like that is my biggest hang up with kind of the push a little bit more towards full stack. Because there's kind of, separate movements. There is this thing like where demand, like everyone's just kind of like full stack web developer. Like everybody wants full stack, full stack, full stack. But there isn't less things to care about on the front end portion as far as like performance and stuff like that. There's actually more. So like this progressive web app thing, I'm not afraid or don't want to touch JavaScript. It's like that I really care about like performance and about a good experience up front. And the more time I spend keeping up to date with things like progressive web apps or the latest, performance techniques or animations or anything like that. And so I still love that part. And the progressive web app, it drives it even more because I love that stuff. And getting your first service worker going is crazy, but it's so awesome when you like turn off your internet and the page doesn't die and things still work. Like it's just a fantastic experience. Like I love it. And like those kind of things make me so excited about it. And so it's more like that I still feel there's this divide, but you just don't see that so much at least in job postings.
Yeah, well, I think job postings have been like a bane of our industry forever, right? So it's just like
titles and job postings.
Right, and then job interviews are like, what? Like, are you serious? So you're asking me this esoteric, hypothetical question? It's like, would you like me to code something for you?
Yeah.
Like crazy as it is. Yeah. So I'm not sure what that's a whole different another discussion to have is job posting. But I guess I will just dive into it. Like, have you looked at job postings as you're kind of researching and trying to find out what you want to do in the future? Or like,
yeah, pretty much daily.
Yeah.
Because I would look at them pretty often because coming from the conference world and being kind of very active on Twitter and that stuff, you make a lot of friends, and so your friends are looking for new gigs, and so you start kind of like look around, try to help them like figure out who's hiring, who you might know somewhere that you can talk to or something like that. So pop out to things now, and daily I've been looking at like job listings now just to see like where do I fit in the grand scheme of things as far as like what people are hiring for.
And what's your like, what type of positions are you drawn for? Like, you mentioned like you're still care about the visual front end and the performance stuff like that. So what is there like is it still like this generic title of a front end, engineer that's out there, or is there like is there a niche or title that you find or titles that you're looking forward to?
I've probably found about like on the actual job sites, I think I found about 1 to 2 that I feel like I'm qualified for.
Yeah, wow.
Like from like the holistic description of the job, and those are the same ones that still fit in my wheelhouse as far as like they kind of list like a front end only. Like they usually don't have like an extra title piece to them. And so like there's been about 1 to 2 of those, I think, for sure. And then the rest have pretty much like it comes up as engineer. And what I've noticed a lot now is product designer is kind of also the thing that I used to consider a front end person. So you'll see product designer being like the people that both create comps and execute comps up to up to like hooking up data.
Is there any like UX involved in product design?
Yeah. So it comes into it's a pretty wide range of things too, because you might participate in like depending on the job posting or even personal experience, you might be participating in UX interviews and like the various process of that, creating comps, or also executing like some HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right. Working in like Framer and working in like the various like new tools that are out there.
Yeah, I just I feel like we talked about the like generation one of web designer, and so like where is that position gone? And the product designer seems like the fit, and so like that's another thing for me personally. Trying to wrap my head around is like the term product to me means like a physical piece, and so when there's a big change like product design, like, well, what do you mean? It's like a website. It's like it's not like real. It's like it's not real. And then like, oh, is that a knock on people who work on virtual stuff? I don't know.
No, yeah, that's a good point, because like I use Pinterest,
right.
And a little while ago, like I realized that I had a board called like product design, and it was all like packages of bottles and like right. Stuff like that. And that's not at all what you consider a product now. Now it's like product is, it can be like the whole of like, so if you picture like Shopify, like I would imagine, or actually I should probably know one that I know what I'm talking about instead of assuming somebody else. At Pluralsight, the whole UI, the whole like .com experience, that's product. And there's like probably about 15, 20 teams divided in there that are specific portions of that whole product team. So there's like 15 to 20 smaller product teams, which is, yeah, it's a different world than like what you and I got started in, what we're used to.
Right. Yeah. So it's just like this nomenclature thing. And then like, also I'm trying to like figure out UX, because it's like part of my growth patterns. And like, I was the person who grew up with the web initially, and I was it like generation one. And so like, and all of a sudden someone decided to name things differently and not talk to me about it. And so that's the problem I have with that. So UX, I found like I'm really interested in UX. However, I haven't, I feel like it's part of my job. My skill sets that I already do, but like, oh, I can specialize in that. It's like, oh, that's kind of crazy. I could actually have a career just by doing UX. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, but like you, like I love doing the visual stuff and like adding like the meat and bones, if you will, to wireframes, and like adding the fidelity to the design, and I love testing them out, and I also love getting performance, and packing as much of a visual presentation as possible with the fewest number of kilobits, as possible into that. And I love that challenge by doing that. So it's been, I don't make it about me, but it's just like I feel like it's like one of my mysteries. Like, well, where do we go from here? And
it's not just you though. I'm on the exact same thing. We're just like looking at the things that you've really enjoyed, and I'm sure this has probably happened to people before us as the web transition that first round too, the first major round. It's just like the things that we've really enjoyed and understood have changed, and now it's like, where do we fit in like this? Where do our interests fit, and what is marketable now?
So I want to get back and talk like in terms of someone who might be listening and saying like, hey, maybe I'm a designer, maybe I'm a product designer, but I want to like tackle a development area. It sounds like sort of like what you've been doing, like getting your hands on JavaScript. Like what like tools have you used? What courses have you used to dive deeper into JavaScript? So, would you recommend or work?
Let's see. Like I'm a visual learner, so I like start everything by finding some video of someone teaching something. So probably like I'm such a Wes Bos fanboy at this point. Like he explains things really well. So I basically learn everything that he shares. But aside from that, I bounce around. So the bulk of my time is spent like replicating code that someone is doing on a screen. And then I take that and then now try to make something that's completely different from the thing that was in that and try to redo it again on my own. And then from there, you end up in all sorts of tools. Like it depends on like what you're building or what you want to make. Like that Preact was a great example. by default, you can just grab Preact and do something. But I had seen this great talk about the CLI and how you generates all this stuff by default. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to build something using the CLI tool, and then go from there. So it's just kind of, you have to learn about things and then just kind of build something with it, like whatever way you learn best. I'm horrible at reading documentation. It's like my worst.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not good at sitting down and reading through the docs of things. I much prefer someone explaining something one time through.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's it speaks to the explosion of online video learning, right? So it's pretty Planet.com and Pulse. Just so many great sources out there. So people follow. So and Wes is great. I mean, Wes has spoken at DevConf more times. I think his first course was Sublime editor course, and so that was a great. He just knocked it out of the park there, and he's been just killing it ever since too. So he did a great job. Last year, he's came back for the Alamo. So he's still at Alamo, and he just did a great ES6 talk. So
yeah, that was a fantastic talk. Yeah, I learned a lot from that.
And well, yeah, it just sounds. I know, I think we're both visual learners, but then also I was just reading Anna Tabor's tweet where she actually says she can't even learn by watching videos. So people are different in terms of that.
Yeah.
So and so there's lots of reading Google tutorials out there, but what I've been finding is that when I want to learn something, I actually I use Google of course, but then I actually have to say 2017 or go into my preferences and say yeah, I can only read things that have been published within the last year, because there's lots of great clickbaity web tutorials out there, or they use these keywords that they're saying, but they're not up to date. And and that's kind of the bane, not the bane of industry. It's the hardship for industry is just that these tutorials go out of date, and then one, no one wants to write documentation, but when they do, we thank them. But then maintaining it is also just this technical debt that we have of doing that. And there's just so many out-of-date articles that are out there. It's really tough. So I feel and to be honest, there's really a lot of bad tutorials out there. Not just they're just written badly. They're and I probably have done a number of them, but I just feel they don't really solve the problem that they try to solve, or they leave out key components. And some of that I think is also just there's so many parts that you need for installing modules and all this stuff like that. And it's just it gets really sticky. So especially as modules get updated, and then this project code that may have worked 2 months ago, if you install everything and they hadn't locked everything down, it just you can't use it anymore. So
yeah, I think you're really onto something with that, because it's especially coming from the teaching world. It has become such a moving target. And again, that's just another change that you can see probably in the past 3 to 5 years, because it used to be with you would kind of choose different camps. You might be a PHP person or a Ruby person, and then and those things had big subsets. If you're a WordPress person, it would be it might be a year between versions. And so you didn't have to learn very much except for what existed in that year. And then Rails, same kind of thing, might be a year or even two, between a big version, a big release, and we have to relearn everything. These JavaScript frameworks aren't like that at all. They're every couple of months, they're having significant changes to things. So an article, if you see an article on React from 2015, it's no way, I can't read this, not in a million years, so.
Yeah, well, React is I think they had a big change at the end of last year, and then just went to React 3, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to update React. And so just a lot of things have changed within 8 months, and that's crazy talk, right? That's just we used to do conferences online about JavaScript every year, and so it went from 1 day to 2 days. Oh, actually started as a jQuery conference, and then kind of jQuery, blah, blah, blah. And so we went to JavaScript, and it was I think one time we had 4 days of JavaScript online sessions, and it was just
yeah, I remember that one.
And now it's just I almost killed us, but it was just in terms of production, but it was just now I was just there's one, things change so fast that the material that you capture, you just talked about within 2 months, probably won't be used. But also, there's still like these camps, like you talked about PHP, Rails and stuff. There's still like, well, I'm React, I'm Angular, I know like I'm Vue and so on. So there's like, maybe these camps have like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not gonna say PHP's gone away, but WordPress, Matt Mullenweg came out and said like homework for like, your homework for everyone is to learn JavaScript, which is like should be like a big shot across the bow of PHP. It's like, oh, okay, well, we should really be ready to port this over JavaScript and be ready for it. So, like I said, like JavaScript is eating the world.
Yeah, and like the camps shift along that way too. So like Vue is very, very popular amongst it's not always exactly cut and dry like this, but Vue is very popular amongst the PHP community from the past. And then like the Rails community kind of like drifts in between. Like so there's some people really like Ember, then there's some that use Angular, and then React is even making its way into some of the stuff too. So it's now a much more not divisive in the way that like in a negative way, but it's just more divided, much more varied. Like there's not like one or two primary camps that you can fall into anymore and write about or share.
Right. Yeah, and so it's like to go back, like we used to do like 4 days of JavaScript Summit. Now it's like so much has changed that I don't think I could, if I just want to do a React conference, I don't think I could do it justice within 1 to 2 days. And now it's like, well, there's Angular, so I have to do like an Angular, thing. And then like, so like we go a whole month of online conferences with that. And I was just like, wow, there's just so much, JavaScript is like blowing up so much. And to have to tell people like, like yourself, you're trying to like learn yourself, like Dan, like you're trying to like, learn more about Node and React, and so it's like, hopefully that knowledge, like you be able to like, translate that into a job. And like, well, there's all these other people who want a job and to maintain that, or the people who have a job now and they need to maintain it. That's like really kind of weird. It's like you're surfing this wave, and you just hope it doesn't crest and just wipe you out with that stuff. I don't know. So it's just kind of just like we're on this knife's edge. I don't know how many metaphors I can have here, but it's just kind of crazy, like how our industry keeps on moving.
Yeah. So. And the competition keeps moving too. Like I know a buddy, they were hiring for a position that I'm not qualified for, but I was just curious. I'm like, okay, so I see where this is at, like, and so how's that been so far? And they got like, they tweeted it out, shared it, or whatever, and then like they had like 250 like entries within like a week or two span, and then like I narrowed that down to 40, and then we're starting their like 15-minute talks. So like, there's a lot of people out there in this space like that do have these skills and are very talented too, which is it's an interesting thing. You
talked about like you're a visual learner. Just to change touch a little bit. Have you experimented at all with virtual reality or augmented reality in the web at all?
No, the closest I go is I have a Pixel, and I use my own little like whatever the card. It's like the new version of Google Cardboard.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm only an end user. I haven't messed with anything.
Okay. I just wondered if you're into it or not, because I have I experimented. I actually used someone's VR console and actually played some games with it. And I was like, oh, okay, now I get it and I understand why people are excited by it. I'm excited by it too, because just to be able to use your cell phone as your VR goggles, I think that's pretty awesome. But as someone, I just don't see using VR as a maybe as a gaming system. I can see that, but which is great. I mean, because gaming is huge. But in terms of practicality, which is where I like to sit, is in terms of like I want to build things that are practical for people.
Yeah.
Or like I'll help them learn better. It's not for me to do that. But augmented reality, like that's I can get behind that.
Yeah, that is like and like that's been around for a long time, but it just hasn't never gotten there.
Yeah.
And like Snapchat like changed the world when it comes to that. Like they like instantly made AR like a thing to everyone, which is really, really cool. So yeah, that stuff is really neat, and there's a lot of really cool things that are going to be coming from that, I think.
Right.
as we go, and scary, horrible commercial things also, but good things for the most part.
Well, I feel like the web is sort of like augmented reality because like my view is that before like email and web became, as it became more mainstream and more commercial, people's ability to just transform their lives by pulling like electrons and information from the air, from their cable modems, that type of thing, they have now access to information on demand and can just they get information on very simple stuff like restaurant reviews, to where to go to eat, so they don't go to a bad restaurant, to finding out where to do activities, research schools, research home buying. I mean, it's just like you haven't left anything, but you're changing your environment just by the web. I feel like the augmented reality is just a natural step to that, even though it's a big leap to it. So any thoughts on what you're going to learn next? What topics do you think you want to dive into? What kind of projects you're looking into?
Yeah. So I've been kind of like, I'm a product minded person. Like I really enjoy that, like working on a product that I prefer iterative work where we can kind of like keep working on something, keep making it better and better and better. But in the meantime, while I'm figuring out which things that I would like to do on, kind of like working with a friend, I might just start doing like one or two like client projects, just kind of keep me like building things and keeping going through, that aren't like a whole, like my entire time, but it just kind of will keep me busy and, keep revenue coming in, which is always a concern
Right.
when you don't have a job. But yeah, so like that kind of thing is what I'm doing right now. And I think that's going to help me figure out what it is that I want to do.
So best of luck. And how can people reach out to you on the internet? Maybe give you a job offer.
Sure. Yeah, I'm pretty active on Twitter. It's probably my best way. At Dan Denney on Twitter.
And your website is dandenney.com.
Yeah, yep. I got lucky. The extra E, makes it very easy.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.